You know, I think Ed talked to me in Portland at the convention, which I attended prior to officially starting at HLAA. And I know that I met Joan and Joanne and Flo and a whole bunch of folks in Portland. And I did want to get out to as many chapters as possible, because when the board brought me on, I said the first 100 days of any new executive director is all about becoming a student of the organization. I need to learn everything I can about the culture, the stakeholders, the focus, the mission, who all the important players are. And then I can do an assessment of the organization and provide some ideas and recommendations to the board and to the organization. And I will tell you that when I said that, and when I was in Portland, the first thing people said is, the first place you got to go is Florida. The first place you got to go is down to see all of the great chapter leaders and people that are doing such wonderful work in Florida. And so 4 months on the job, you're absolutely right. It's almost 4 months to the day. I've had the opportunity to go to Jacksonville on Saturday to attend their walk. I was in Orlando yesterday, Sarasota today, still have Tampa to attend, and West Palm Beach. So I really feel like I'm starting to get a feel for Florida. And I also want to thank you all for the lovely weather that you arranged for me while I'm here. Up home, it's kind of miserable. We've had a real cold spell. And so on Monday, my husband called me and said, so, you know, how are things in Florida? What's going on? Or no, I guess it was Sunday. How's the weather? I go, oh, dear, it's nice. It's nice. It's nice. You go, I went on the internet. I know what the weather in Florida is. It's fabulous. It's sunny. It's warm. And I'm freezing my butt off up here. So I was very happy to be here for a variety of reasons. So in my opportunity to talk with you all tonight, I still look at this as part of my learning opportunity. So I'm hoping that we can have a dialogue and a conversation tonight while I'm here. Now, Ed gave you a little bit of background. Can I have a little water? No bear. Flo is trying to lead me down a path that's just not a good place to go when you're standing in front of a group of folks. She's already gotten one beer into me tonight. See, now I forgot what I was going to say. So I'd like to have a dialogue with you because I think there's so many opportunities going on here in Sarasota, but honestly, one of the challenges and one of our opportunities is what are we doing across the country? Because until we can get the 48 million people out there who are dealing with hearing loss and their families working together to really make change, you know, we can continue to do a lot of things locally, but we really need to have kind of a national movement kick off. And I think that we are very close to being there. In fact, I'm really starting to talk to folks about the fact that I think HLAA and the awareness around hearing loss is at a tipping point. You may know that we are 34 years old. Next year, we're going to be 35. And for the last 34 years, I think we've done a fabulous job at building a foundation for the organization. We now have 174 chapters, Ed. We actually just recently had 2 new chapters open up. And so we know that people are really starting to pay attention to this across the country for a variety of different reasons. Let me tell you a little bit about why I think we're at a tipping point. So first of all, we know that we have a lot of people who have hearing loss, and as the previous speaker talked about, those statistics are going to continue to grow and grow and grow. We know that 65% of the people who have a hearing loss are under the age of 65. Now, those people oftentimes, frankly, are baby boomers who are aging into their hearing loss. And they're going to be very demanding of asking for and expecting tools and resources to help them. We know that many of them, the baby boomers, are in the workplace. and they want to keep their jobs. They're not interested necessarily in getting out of work. They may not be able to afford to get out of work anymore based upon the last few years of the economy. Or some of them may actually have to change jobs because of their hearing loss. And so I think there's a great opportunity for us to provide real concrete support to people in the workplace in ways that perhaps we've never done before. Because no other organization is really reaching out and providing support to them the way I think that we can. The other opportunity around the workplace is, in fact, the employers also know that 20 to 25% of the workforce very soon is going to have a hearing loss. So it's going to be in their best business sense, in their best business interest, to provide resources and support to people in the hearing, in their workplace who have a hearing loss, because they can't afford not to. And it is in their best business interest to do that. We've seen a tipping point in growing awareness of hearing loss from increased media attention, articles in the New York Times, in the Post. I'm from Washington, D.C. I live in Virginia. We have the Post. So we're actually seeing some stories run in the Post around hearing loss, and we're certainly seeing a lot of things online. We recently partnered with High Health, who did a fabulous job on doing a public service announcement back in October, because October was one of the awareness months that we do in October and then again in the spring. And as I understand it, last year when they did the PSAs, they had 100 radio stations agree to run the PSA. This year, in partnership with us, 1,100 radio stations ran the PSA. They also came to us with requests for lots of interviews. So we know now that people are starting to pay more attention to this. As a result of that initiative and partnership, we actually worked with the City of New York, and we took those PSAs and they became videos. And they are now going to run in the taxi cabs in New York City. So I don't know how many of you get up to New York, but a lot of times they have the little videos in the taxi cab to keep you entertained. It's going to be captioned. So if we can do this in New York, we want to leverage that opportunity to do it in other cities around the country. So I just give you those couple of examples of why I think that all of a sudden we're starting to see a lot more interest and a lot more visibility around the hearing loss issues. Now, when people ask me about HLAA, there are three things that I say. Since I've been here, everyone has told me HLAA has saved my life, or HLAA has given me back my life. And our mission is to open the world of communication to people with hearing loss and to provide support to their family. But when I talk to people, like at the chapters that I'm visiting, I also have learned, you know what the real thing we're doing, the real thing that Ed's doing and Joan's doing and Joanne's doing here in Sarasota, is we're helping people live successfully with hearing loss. We are opening the world of communication to people. But we are helping people live successfully with hearing loss, be it in the workplace, in relationships with their families and spouses and friends. We're doing it in communities where we're having the mayor's office come here and realize the importance of involving HLAA in city council meetings. And we know that we're doing it because we're getting all of these looping venues around the city, and we know that we're doing that across the country. So as we talk about the work of HLAA, as we advocate with the FCC, as we are working with insurance companies around hearing loss, we really have to talk to them about how our advocacy work helps people live successfully with hearing loss. And people are responding to that message quite well. You're drinking the wine, right? Okay. Excuse me. The other opportunity that I think is important for us to consider is, as public awareness is increasing, we have to be clear about what we're providing to people. What is the value that they get? What's their return on investment in terms of being involved in the organization? not just really their dues or the financial commitment they make, but what's the return on their investment of their time? And one of the things that we're going to be talking about a lot over the next few days and weeks is what are we doing to make sure that we are very crisp and concrete with the information that people need and that they can get from us. We're going to be updating our website, for instance, because we really need, our website is so huge. I mean, when I have come for other organizations, we had big websites. I'll tell you, ours is overwhelming, and it's a little hard to find sometimes. So we really want to be sure that we are providing emerging trends and information to members. The other thing that's very interesting about HLAA is we're very well respected in DC. We're very well respected in state capitals around the country. Manufacturers and people who are really starting to look at this market around assistive hearing devices are really starting to realize that there are 47 million people who are potential customers. There are a lot of people. I mean, the baby boomers own 70% of the disposable income in this country. These people spend a lot of money. So if I were a manufacturer coming up with any kind of equipment or device, I want to make sure that I'm providing some things that are very interesting and supportive and helpful to those people. If I'm a restaurant, I want to make sure that those people who have a lot of disposable income come to my restaurant because it's a good place to come and eat. It's quiet. They can hear. And so I think there's some strategies that we can work on together about how to improve and highlight and bring public awareness around employers and businesses who are really doing great things around making sure that the environment is supportive of hearing loss. And so that's the work that we do at HLAA. We do advocacy. We provide support to the chapters so that the peer-to-peer support and the peer-to-peer education occurs at the chapter level. But we're also trying to develop a movement across the country. And I'd love to go to England again sometime and do something in Europe. But our goal is to energize, educate, galvanize 48 million people to advocate for themselves, to work together in our 174 chapters across the country, to be able to demand things for ourselves that we haven't been able to get in the past. We recently were talking to Senator Cartwright in Pennsylvania, and his staff. They have submitted a bill around improving Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement for hearing aids. And, I mean, this is a bill that Senator Harkin's done before. There's other people. But there seems to be growing interest around trying to get legislation around this. There's 22 states who may be able to get hearing aids covered under the Affordable Care Act once that gets kind of straightened out. And we need to work together to make sure that we have a strategic plan for how to do that. And that we're all working together in those 22 states around a common agenda. We have an opportunity, I want to go back to the manufacturers, to educate them about what our needs are, but also help them market what the products and services and devices that we're using for us that can also be marketed and used by other people who have a hearing, that are hearing, excuse me. So we're seeing that with some of the applications for phones. FaceTime on your smartphone is great. Kids love it. My husband loves it. We use it a lot at the office to talk to staff because they lip read. Well, so there's an application that's great for people who have a hearing loss. It's useful for people who don't have a hearing loss. And so the more times we can talk to manufacturers and designers about this, the better off we all are going to be. And we know there's more opportunities like that coming up. In fact, we've been working with the Consumer Electronics Association and a couple of others, where we really want to engage in a new dialogue with hearing aid manufacturers about what they should be really thinking about with us. And we know it's going to be a challenge. I mean, we are not naive or Pollyanna about the difficulties ahead of us and some of the barriers that are ahead of us. But we're enthusiastic. We're excited. We know that if we get enough people behind us working together around this, that we can accomplish the goals that Rocky Stone envisioned for HLAA 34 years ago. So I'm going to stop for a second, take another glass of water, and ask folks, based upon a couple of the comments that I've made here, what's your reaction? What are your questions? What are your thoughts? What are your disagreements? Because, again, we wanted this to be a dialogue and a conversation and not just somebody talking all night long. Because believe me, I could talk all night long. Oh, and I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Don't clap. I'm not done yet. Just taking a break because I want to talk to you. I want to hear from you. I'm a student. I want to hear from you.
Okay. I'd like to know what some of the specific solutions are. Like if you go into a restaurant and just suppose and I want to educate a restaurant about hearing loops, I don't know the specific solution for that venue. It would be nice if there was some specific solutions.
Well, I think we have quite a few solutions around loops, and you have an expert in the room.
Yeah, I know, but Ellen, you've asked me that question 3 times, so obviously you're looking for another source tonight. I think the hearing loop system, if you're trying to advocate it, really depends on the market you're in. If they've had some education on it, you've got a chance. If you have nothing in your community, I know you're doing it with the Rotarians around the country. If they don't have an anchor, a cord, it's really getting back to ground zero. And really, I think the only way I've been able to explain it, this is the only system in the world today that allows me to go to a theater and without any extraneous equipment, just my hearing aid, my implant, to hear exactly what the speaker, the singer, the performer is saying on that stage. Goes directly into my ear. That really cuts through. A lot of theaters and churches and synagogues have had an FM system or an infrared system, and they really haven't worked for all of us. They didn't work for me. I had to put a headset on. I got a lot of feedback, and I had to give up on them. But with the loop, I don't need any extraneous equipment. It is streamlined and all. And I think you use the loop, and I think sometimes it's just the compassion of how it's changed your life that is going to swing these people to understand what it's all about.
Well, like that restaurant. The restaurant, you keep saying, has it. It doesn't work. And I don't know what system for a restaurant is out there.
There are many systems of loops out there. The best loop, and the one that is an unqualified success, is a loop like in this room tonight. But you will find that the theaters, at the houses of worship, at the community centers, there are some portable loops. There's a clipboard loop that audiologists have been using that is excellent. Unfortunately, in Sarasota, the first loop we sold was to a restaurant, and it's a portable loop that sits on the table. If you go to Cara Giulio's restaurant, you can try it. It does work for some people, but it's a nuisance in the sense that the control box has to be on the table, and the person who is receiving it has to keep the control box right where their dinner is going to go. And it is not portable like all the other systems. All the microphones are wired in, so you've got this spaghetti of wires going around to the various tables and all. That system we will never sell again. In fact, even though the manufacturers are still selling that in Europe, Matt, where are you? Take a bow for your company, but you guys have retrofitted a wireless system that's going to replace that now. And we had a early stage of that at Joan's Place for Dinner a few months back with Diana Bender, and that one still had the wired mics, but it was years ahead of where we've been. But the long story short, focus at room loops, theater loops, church loops right now, and forget about the portable stuff until it's ready.
Affordable hearing aids are such a big deal. We meet so many people that just, it's not that they can't afford them, they don't want to pay the high cost of hearing aids. Can you talk a little bit about what HLAA is doing?
Well, and this is a huge problem. I would tell you that that's probably the number one question we get in our office every single day. What can I do to find affordable hearing aids? And so we know that there has to be three things for this to be addressed. One is dealing with the Affordable Care Act. Two, really talking to insurance companies about this and really advocating for reducing or to get it covered by getting it covered by insurance. But there's also some opportunity that we've started a while ago looking at how we pay for hearing aids. There's the cost of the hearing aid, and then there's the cost of the services that surround the hearing aid, from testing and screening to the oral rehab that occurs afterwards. And so we've done some controversial conversations with folks and some controversial positions that we have taken, where we would really like to see more transparency around what the cost of hearing aids are and the services that are associated with hearing aids, so that you would be, we call it unbundling, that's a quote, and we know that audiologists and some hearing aid dispensers are very concerned about that initially. But I've met with the American Academy of Audiology, ASHRA, and speech, I'm going to get this one wrong, speech pathology group. And they are now supporting that concept. It does require a different business model to look at. But if you are really providing good quality rehab for people who have a hearing aid, those people will be more successful, they will be more satisfied, they're going to be more compliant. And so it's really in the long-term best interest of folks to do a good job of providing the rehab. But the challenge is the reimbursement system. And so that really has to be addressed, both in terms of working with the insurance companies, working with the audiologists, the hearing aid dispensers, and consumers. We have to be smarter about what we are asking for from folks. And so we know that that's going to be an ongoing opportunity for us, and we know it's critical to getting hearing aids to be more affordable. The other thing that we see is that there is new emerging technology, from solar-powered hearing aids to other kinds of support systems for people who have a hearing loss. And so the growing technology is going to provide, I think, a market impetus for starting to drive down the cost of hearing aids. So it's something that we take very seriously. We work on it every single day, whether it's talking to insurance folks, audiologists, the other people we talk to a lot is the FCC, but we'll talk about that here in a second. So it's very important, and we know that that is something that people really need. But again, if we could get 48 million people working together around some of these issues, so that we are not seen just as one organization looking at this in terms of what's going on in Sarasota, but a comprehensive nationwide approach.
Why is it so difficult, Anna, to get Medicare to cover hearing aids?
Apparently this has been something that's gone on for years and years and years. And people, I don't know what the original problem was, but now, based upon my 4 months of learning about this more specifically, there is an impression by some that it's not critical, that because there are folks that have a moderate hearing problem or profound hearing problem and then a slight hearing problem, they're confused about where to draw the line, so they don't want to draw one at all. And they've been lobbied, frankly, by a lot of other people who don't want it covered. So again, I think the more we are educating those policymakers and those decision makers about the real issues, in the short term, I think we'll make progress. In the long term, I think that we will get it covered, but it's not going to be immediate. Yes, ma'am.
With reference to what Ellen said, I think in the meantime we could work on restaurants and persuade them to cut down the noise of the music. If that was done, I think a lot of us would hear a lot better. And also I wondered if there could be set up some sort of recycling program, because I have many friends who've died and their spouses have just thrown the hearing aids away when they could perhaps be used for people who can't afford them. And I'd also like to say that this summer I was very lucky. Going back to England, I got 2 new sets of hearing aids, and they work beautifully, and they're free. Mm-hmm. So let's hope that the Affordable Care Act acts in the same way.
But I will also say that is not going to solve the problem. No. Because even in countries where they can get, affordable hearing aids or even free hearing aids, we still have people who are resistant to getting them. We know that it takes 7 years from when the signs and symptoms start to when people actually do something about it. So there's, this ongoing concern about the stigma associated with it. Some people have gotten hearing aids and have not had a good experience. They didn't know about looping and some of the other assistive devices that are used in partnership with a hearing aid. So many people think that putting a hearing aid in their ear is like going out and getting a new pair of glasses. You get your prescription, you get your glasses, you put them on, and bingo, I can see. Well, you all know that that is not the way it goes. So sometimes people aren't very compliant, or they don't work long enough and hard enough to do that. I want to say one thing before I forget it, because if I don't do it, I'll forget it. 2 other things that you said that I just wanted to comment on. The idea that we can talk to businesses, restaurants, people like that, about turning down the noise and being more sensitive to some of the issues around hearing loss is actually an excellent idea, I think, and something that we're talking about. And so when I was in Orlando yesterday, they have a restaurant. They've been going there for many, many times, and they have the same server. And they know when we walked in, they were called by name. People knew it. So I said to them, have you ever officially thanked the restaurant? I know you thanked them, but have you ever, and you tipped them well, but do we ever do anything? And so we're talking about trying to develop kind of a criteria for businesses, restaurants, other groups, that if they met this, they might get a certificate or an award that they could put in their lobby that says HLAA would like to recognize this business for being a great place to come to do it. So it's threefold. One, it gives the facility recognition for this. People who do have a hearing loss will, want to go there, so that's good for a variety of things. It also gives a lot of visibility for HLAA because some people still don't know who we are. And so they'll say, well, what's HLAA and who's HLAA? So we've just started thinking about that. Frankly, that's like 3 weeks old. And so we're going to try and figure out how we would do that and work with the chapters to see if that's something they'd be interested in.
I think we can also do a lot because every restaurant I go in, I beg them to put the noise down. And most of them are very obliging.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is hearing and noise. Hearing and noise. And that's why if there's something, especially like in a restaurant, that, I take out my little portable, I put my neck loop on, I take out my portable magnifying thing, and I literally take the microphone and I stick it in front of somebody or stick it in the other end of the table. And it is amazing when I do take this microphone, and that brings the signal to the noise ratio better to my ear. And then I tell people, I can turn down the volume around me and in a noisy restaurant. And if there was especially hearing and noise, if we could concentrate on that and find what are some good solutions to hearing and noise, you may draw some of these people to hearing aids, but now all they feel is they get amplified noise, and they don't want amplified noise.
Just a couple things. You know, it would be wonderful if there was a technology that you could walk into an acoustically toxic environment and push a button and it would stop being acoustically toxic. It doesn't exist. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to exist anytime soon. What you did is exactly the thing you have to do. You must put a microphone within 3 inches of the mouth you want to hear. Now, the other side of that is if you're in an environment and there's too much noise, you can move to an environment where there is less noise. And we do a lot in the Sarasota chapter of outreach with the Chamber of Commerce. And we had an event at a restaurant. It was very noisy. And I met somebody who had another restaurant. And they said, well, I don't understand what I can do with your group. And I said, do you have a place in your restaurant that's not real honky-tonky and noisy? And he says, yeah, the patio. I said, great. Start advertising that the patio is hearing friendly. And what we now as consumers have to do is we have to look at the non-technical solutions like that. You know, open the patio a half an hour before the bar opens. Have an early bird special. Have something, a hearing healthy special, something like that. And then we have to go there and we have to spend money. And then we have to go out of our way to not only tell the manager, thank you for doing that, but we have to tell the community, thank you for doing that. We have to write a letter to the editor, that kind of stuff. Because what we're trying to do really is not make better technology to deal with an environment that should never be. We have to change the environment. And the only way we're going to change the environment in a business is to change the cash flow of the business. So this is really not a technology solution when it comes to that. Loops are wonderful. I think loops are fantastic. Loops have a place. And a place for loops is one speaker and a room. Places for loops are not 1,000 places. So let's not get too locked in on the loop. Let's get locked in on better environment for communication. And all you have to do is take 3 giant steps away from the noise and it gets better. That's the message we have to start doing, but we must be better consumers. If the audiologist doesn't do the job, we have to stop going to the audiologist, okay? That's where we really are going to get some power. And when we get all of those people, those millions and millions of people, to start to put their foot down and stop paying for inadequate service, then we're going to have the ability to change how hearing aids are provided, and then we can get into an unbundled environment. Okay? But there's only so much technology will do, and I think the problem that I've noticed is everyone wants a technological solution. It's the version of the eyeglasses. I'm sorry, but it doesn't exist, so we have to change the environment.
Well said, Brad. There's 2 other points I want to make real quick before they pull me off. The second thing that I'm really excited and interested in is the fact that people are starting to pay attention to hearing loss as a public health issue. You know, we've been talking about that for a while, but now primary care physicians, nurse practitioners are starting to realize this. And, you know, it's amazing to me that, you know, we don't get proper screening when we get our annual physical. There's a lot of opportunities, I think, to make some changes pretty quickly. And the reason I say that, and again, why I think we're sort of at a tipping point, is in January, the Institute of Medicine is going to do a conference that we're partnering with them around, and it's about hearing loss and healthy aging. And the reason they're doing this, and for those of you who don't know, the Institute of Medicine is a very powerful, influential think tank and policy group. And I have been in the healthcare industry for a long time. When the IOM sneezes, the healthcare industry gets a cold. So when IOM pays attention to an issue, everybody pays attention. At this meeting in January, there will be insurance companies there, hospitals there, policies makers there, manufacturers most likely will also be there. And so when you start looking at these issues from somebody who is totally interested in the big picture about public health and the healthcare industry, this is going to be very important. So we're a sponsor. We're on the planning committee. We're going to be speakers there. We're going to get a lot of folks to attend. But how we leverage the outcome of that meeting is going to be significant because white papers published by IOM are read and distributed by many, many people. So this is a really important opportunity. The second issue that I'm sure we're all aware of is that there's growing evidence about the link between hearing loss and dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And I'll tell you, as a nurse and as a person, people are more afraid of dementia than they are cancer, heart disease, diabetes, you name it. And so people realize that as that link gets further qualified, and I don't want to be reactionary and, you know, a scare tactic or anything like that, but the more research that comes out about that, the better off we're going to be in terms of being able to help people understand that they have to do something early on when they start to see the symptoms of hearing loss. And we should be doing everything possible to prevent hearing loss. And so, you know, we really do need to value this very important sense that we all have and take better care of it, whether we're children or teenagers or young adults or Americans. So I could talk for a long time, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. I have enjoyed being in Florida. I have had a wonderful time with everyone. But I will tell you that when I say to folks, HLAA saved my life or HLAA gave me back my life, I only know that by going out to groups like this and seeing what you're doing and hearing the stories of people who you are impacting each and every day. And while we're doing fabulous work in Bethesda and we are advocating with the White House and FCC and we're talking to your insurance companies and all these things, we can't do the job that we need to do without you. And you can't do the job you need to do without all the other 173 chapters and a strong voice in Washington, D.C. So it's been a pleasure and an honor to be here, and I want to thank you for all the work that you do every single day. Thank you.